Welcome back, y'all. In today's video, I'm going to cover my long-term experience using the Shimano Biopace chain rings. I'm going to discuss the infamous topic of, did it cause knee pain for me? And also, did I feel a difference in regards to the feel of my cadence using them? Also, a little update of my vintage Diamondback Override gravel bike. But first, we're going to hit some true off-roading right now. As usual, a lot of the off-road and gravel roads out here have huge sand patches and they suck you right in. And even the granny ring can't get you through it. So I gotta walk for just a short period. But there's a gravel road just up ahead there. But now that we're walking and talking, let me cover the first thing. I absolutely did not have any knee pain whatsoever using these Biopace chain rings. I just didn't. I flat out didn't. I've had people tell me in person, and you see them all over the forums, that people are experiencing knee pains here and there. I personally didn't. And in fact, the cadence, like people claim in the forums that you'll feel a difference, I didn't experience a difference at all. I couldn't tell from my round chain rings compared to my Shimano Biopace chain rings. No thumping, feeling, whatever people have used to describe it. I didn't experience either one of those things. They felt completely normal. All right, now we can continue on riding. So talking about I can't feel the difference between a round chain ring and the Biopace chain ring, the point is proven when I put on this FSA Vero, I think, chain ring on here. And also, side note, it proves that the Biopace chain rings are compatible with round chain rings if you mix them, because it shifts perfectly fine. But yeah, when I'm switching from the big chain ring to the middle chain ring, I can't feel a difference whatsoever. Just the gear ratio, of course. And you know, an upgrade that I did was a Shimano Sora. Just a quick note, throughout the video, I called it the Sora front derailleur. It's actually Claris, my bad. Triple front derailleur, works great. The only thing is the original chain, that was an 8-speed chain, a little bit wider. I put a 9-speed chain and everything shifts perfectly fine. And that includes shifting up and down the chain rings between the Biopace and the round chain ring, and even in the rear. So the 9-speed works with the 7-speed drivetrain. And that's also my personal opinion. If something isn't worn from start to finish, I believe you can mix and match chains, chain rings, cranksets, as long as they're not super worn. A lot of people are strictly against it, but from my experience with all the bikes I've ridden, they've worked fine. So if you didn't see my reveal video of this bike, go back and watch that. But the one thing I did stick with when I first got it was the original stock cantilever brakes. And they were good, don't get me wrong, but I still had the BR CT91 cantilever brakes that are a metal body rather than partially plastic. And it's significantly better. So if you're doing a vintage conversion or vintage build and you need cantilever brakes, just get the BR CT91s. They're just so much more powerful. As you can tell, I call it two-finger braking because one finger isn't strong enough, but two-finger you can lock up the rear. A few fingers you could do stoppies, so they're significantly better. And last shameless plug for another video I did, the rear derailleur is the Acera now, and of course, flawless, works under load when you're shifting and everything, and these shifters on the bars are completely compatible, so no complaints with that. And barely, if not any chain slap whatsoever. Compared to the stock X-Age rear derailleur, that thing was so soft, the spring on there, but this one is great. Even with how rough these roads can be out here, I'm convinced I don't need a clutch derailleur. With my limited experience of converting these vintage 90s hybrid bikes to gravel bikes, I've realized that the water bottle mounts for the seat tube are pretty low, and if you want to run a 2x, you're going to have to bring out the cage away from the seat tube in order for the front derailleur to fit. So if you ever think about doing a conversion, you have to note that if you want to do a 2x setup, the water bottle cage may not fit directly, so you have to put spacers. And in my case, I used 2 per bolt Presta nut valve things. I'll show you on the screen right now, but that elevated the bottle cage away from the seat tube so the front derailleur can fit. But that also means that if you're going to do a 1x, works perfectly fine and looks a lot cleaner. All right, going through this neighborhood to get to my last gravel road for the day. Because I'm actually going to end this video in my garage, I want to do an experiment with my crankset. Yeah, I got something in my leg. I literally was just about to say I love this graining gear because I can get through sand, but still not good enough. That's the thing. I thought the graining gear would get me through sand out here, and I'm running 43C tires, and it's like 20, maybe 15, 20 PSI, and I still sink in, and obviously I just ate it so hard. So the sand patch stops right about here, but I don't have to worry about it because these old bikes are super durable. Let me just double check everything and then we'll keep on riding. All right, I think we're good. I don't know how I ate it so hard where it ripped a hole in my leg cover, but the bike's totally fine. Again, one of a million reasons why I like these vintage steel bikes. The durability is insane. I can't believe I landed right on my bike and nothing is bent or loose or anything. All right, back to my garage. And as you can tell, I actually did a quick conversion to make this a 2x system, still using the front Shimano Claris triple front derailleur, and it absolutely works converting this into a double. Now, the thing I did was just taking the original cranks, taking the graining ring off, and the 38 tooth Biopace middle chain ring off, and then I had a 39 tooth 110 BCD for these cranks and slapped that on there, making this a double. So it's a 50 by 39 tooth combination, and it works. It actually works really well. I was putting around and it shifts beautifully. Also, you have to have a more narrow bottom bracket spindle width, and I went from 117.5 to a 107.5 on here, bringing the chain rings a little bit closer in so they're more even in regards to the tolerance for the rear cassette. Also, the limits that the limit screws can handle for the front derailleur. But that was the little experiment that I wanted to do to see if I can do a quick and easy conversion to a 2x setup. I think I mentioned earlier in the video, there was one bike component that inspired me to do this conversion, still using the original shifter for the triple setup. That is the Shimano ST-R Brifters, because back in the day, they marketed as a 2/3 front shifter. So it seemed to be a combination. I've used this for a double, and I know that with the limit screw on the front derailleur, if I backed that out, it would have wound up being able to shift into a triple setup. So I thought this was going to work, and it turns out it actually does work, and it works perfectly with a 2x setup. Also with the front derailleur, when I was converting it to a double, I had to move it up just a tiny bit because the derailleur hanger was hitting the teeth on the largest chainring. So that was just another little adjustment that I didn't anticipate. But other than that, setting up the limit screws shifts just like a double. So the triple front derailleur, I can confirm, does work with the 2x setup. Now, in regards to the mounting holes on the crank where the granny gear was, I didn't screw back in the mounting bolts, so I just left them out. But let me know if I should screw them back in. Maybe it'll protect the threading, but I don't think it's going to be a big deal. I could probably just clean them if I go back to a triple. And I sound like a broken record, but this rear derailleur freaking rocks. I highly recommend it. Last point why I wanted to do this setup after my ride, because it's a prerequisite to going drop bars along with the Redshift top shelf drop bars and my Shimano tourney shifters. The left shifter is a double, and I didn't want to go 1x this time just to try out gravel riding along with the 2x setup. So next time you see this bike, it's going to have drop bars. But enough rambling. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. I truly appreciate you hanging out. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Always love responding to any comments or questions that you have. Once again, thank you so much for liking and subscribing. I do appreciate that. And I'll catch you in the next video.